All right, Adam, welcome to the Micro Collector podcast. I am so excited to have you on today. As I was just saying before we hit record here, I'm a big fan. My kids are a big fan. I was telling my kids last night that I had you coming on, and my 8-year-old this morning put on his digital mixtape to school, in celebration of this episode. So thanks for taking the time. And I know they're going to be excited to hear what you have to say, but I'm super excited to hear your story today.
Justin, thanks for having me. I'm pumped. I love that. I always tell people getting it on the kids' wrists and then their excitement. That's like the biggest win I can have, I think, to be honest with you. All the watch nerds, it's great, but if they can put them on their kids' wrists, I'm like, oh my gosh, the next generation.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess down the road it might be a challenge, but now my son we have this Rolex book that we're reading every night about Rolexes, and he's asking like, how many birthday presents to get a Rolex? Like if I do the next 3 years of birthday presents, can I get a Rolex? I'm like, oh, this guy's got the bug.
You're like, I can get you an Omega moon swatch, buddy.
There you go. Yeah, I have a couple of those, and I see you have a couple in the back there too. So maybe
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Maybe that's where I'll start with him.
that's why I might. He's now 11, but I think I got it for him when he was either 9 or 10. I just buy them retail if I go to Swatch store and they have them. So I grabbed him the Earth because I had gotten myself one and like someone else was with me. So I was like, let me get another one of those, and I gave it to him. And I remember him. He sometimes comes and helps me out at the watch shows, and he was wearing that. And so I was like, whoa, you got a moon swatch. So he was like pretty legit for a while, while they were still kind of hard to get.
Yeah, I remember that when it was really hard to get. I think I got my first one on like Chrono 24 because it was hard to get. And then I actually grew up in Hong Kong, so I went over to visit my family over there,
That's
and
awesome.
the Swatch store there had like everyone you could imagine, and I was like, yes.
Oh,
So
I
I got
love
a
Hong
I got a
Kong.
handful on that trip.
That must have been, yeah, you must have been like candy, right?
Yeah, I was like, I better get like 4 or 5 because I don't know when I'm going to get them again. As I said, huge fan, excited to hear your story. I guess for those that don't know you, maybe you could give us a little intro, a little background, how you got into watches in the first place. And also maybe you can clear it up for us. I've heard people say Farr I've heard people say Farrandswit. So I'd love to hear from the man himself. I know it's a combination of the three of you and your co-founders' names, but maybe you can tell
Yes.
us a little bit how the company came to be and sort of where you guys are at.
Yeah, so my name is actually Adam Farranswit, Farrand, not Farranswit. Sorry. See, I'm bumbling over it. My name is Adam Farrand Hodge. I'm so used to saying Farranswit that it's now become part of my name. No, my last name's Hodge. My middle name is Farrand. Yeah, so I had been a watch collector, company-wise. I'll give you the company background. I've been a watch collector for a while. I had gotten pretty deep, and this was, I want to say, like 2006. I was starting to go to like watch time events. It was basically that was the only show that I knew of, and they had one where they toured. They had them in New York, and they had one that actually came to Chicago, which is where I was. But it was more of like an industry event for jewelers, to be honest with you. Like I would go and I had 2 huge bags full of swag. I mean, full books, you blow hats, Ulysses Nardine wallets. I mean, it was like, I was just telling my wife because she had tried to throw out some Girard Piquet box, and I was like, oh, I had a little stamp in there or something that it's just like little tchotchkes that were really, really cool. Anyways, I was deep into it. My friend Zach Switowski also collected watches. He was into it as well. And then I had a friend, Andy Paetzold, who he designs jewelry. He designed my wedding ring. He's actually won some awards. He's a friend and local like custom jeweler. And I had this idea to do my own watch. It was the Seaplane. That's like the first one that we came out with. It's kind of like a combination. It's cheesy when you think about it, but I love it still. Like the Seaplane idea is the combination of the pilot diver. So you get a diver with the loom and the depth, water rating, and then you get the pilot with the pilot hands, and you can have the bezel so it could do the diver as well. It was just kind of a fun adventure watch that I come out with, and I pulled those 2 guys in. Was like, hey, I'm gonna make this. Will you guys want to come in and help me kind of come up with the ideas and be part of the company? They both joined in, and we got to designing the seaplane. And Andy and Zach were huge help. I mean, that thing turned out to be awesome, and it was a mild hit, I guess, a hit at the time because this is a passion project I was doing in 2018 just for fun. And that's where our brand name comes from is our three names. I mean, I don't like when you were creating the podcast name, I'm sure you're like, there's so many different ways to go, or it can sound so vanilla, or it can, I want to get something to hook. And I had gone through, I don't know how many names. I mean, I'd done so many stuff, and the more you look at it, you'd be like, this isn't it. So then I was like, what the easiest thing is to just combine our names. And so I was like, Adam, I don't like Hodge just doesn't have a. So like, hey, my middle name is Fair, and you're Switalski, so Swit, Farrand, Andy. So we always call it's Farr and Swit is the official name. And I also remember I was like, hey, people are gonna call us Farr and Swit, which I don't mind. Like if I'm on the radio, I say Farr and Swit. A lot of times where people are used to that, I say that. Both ways work. But I was like, like a fancy watch brand like Panerai. I think I was calling that Panerai or something, so I was like, we got to have we have the in crowd that knows the official Javier Lecoutier, how to say the name. But it's also called Farr and Swit. So it's both sides work. But yeah, I think your other question was watch collecting. Like how did I get into
Yeah,
watches in general? Or
yeah, no, you kind of touched on it a little bit that you were going to all these shows and so on. I guess what's really interesting to me is how do you go from being sort of a watch enthusiast to deciding, hey, I want to launch a watch, and then you get a couple of friends to help you, and then how does that become a company where now I was looking on your site and it looks like you have five different lines of watches, and you guys are really getting, I mean, now you have a brand that's
yeah, yeah.
recognizable out there and so on. Tell me a little bit about that journey from sort of like collector to brand. I mean, it's quite an achievement.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. It's one that like I don't think I mean sometimes there's overnight successes, right? But I think for the most part, it's something you got to commit to, and it's a longer trail, but you got to be ready for it, right? So yeah, I guess the conversion from collector to like starting the company was just the idea. I had the idea, and I always tell people like, I don't know, I've always had this like creator bug to me. Like I used to make t-shirts in high school that were joke t-shirts. They were making fun of Stussy, which is now cool again, and No Fear Gear, and it was called Hodgeware. And I would like do them with markers, and I have friends over, and we'd all like draw all these t-shirts, and then people would wear them, and people would want to buy them. I used to do Weird Al style music in grade school and sell cassette tapes at the recess. That's like I'm not joking. That's like straight up real. So I always used to make stuff, and I always used to like to make things. Just I kind of went down the rabbit hole of exploring like getting the prototype done. What's unfortunate is like the guys who are doing our prototype, like you pay all the machine costs and the upfront costs, and the product they delivered just wasn't what I wanted. We were using an inferior, like 8,000 level Miota movement. Nothing against it. It's just non-hacking, really loud. Not my favorite movement. But then we ended up saying like, we want to partner with. We use like Wiegand Watch Company over in Mentor, Ohio. So it's Chris Wiegand. He's awesome, and like having it brought instead of doing something overseas with people that you kind of lose a little bit of touch and control, and there's a lot of just you don't have as much control on it, and the design stuff could end up being more vanilla when you bring it to over to a guy in Ohio who's nearby with me, has a small team, and we're making the custom like actual case and everything with it, and the color Pantones, what I mean, like I never wanted to do the pick out of the catalog, which is what sometimes Kickstarter brands can go to a shop, a house, which many of them people know, and then say, hey, I want to have this similar dive watch and put my logo on it and use colors like this. And then you don't have to worry about it. You just buy a couple hundred of those and you're good to go. Like I wanted to go the long route, which is create something our own that was just us, was our thing. And we had input into every little millimeter on it. I'm glad we did because I think that's the way to go, to be honest with you. The quality level is definitely a step up. But yeah, I just kind of had the idea. I wanted to make it happen. I did some digging around, and I was like, hey, we can come up with a good idea, bring it, get the prototype done, and then kind of go from there. And then it was just like, all right, now that we got 300 of them, I think was the first order. I was like, now we got 300 of these. Let's start moving them, right? I went to minutes and hours when they first came. So I luckily had my first Chicago show was with minutes and hours. At the time, it was called Microlux, and we had just gotten the Seaplanes. So you do a show like that, people get to see them in person, hold them in person. I hosted a couple launch events locally. I was in Arlington Heights at the time, so I had like a bar, rented it out, had people come in. then you had to do all the, advertising and blog stuff, but it's just that's the worst part. You're gonna have me go on a tangent. It's like the first year where like nobody really knows about you, right? You got to really focus. I think focusing local helped us a lot because we had all the support of people locally. I mean, I've got a jewelry store in Elmhurst that carries it, so like you get a lot of local support. People are interested in it because it's someone nearby that they can bump into. And so I focused locally a lot, and then all those, nobody wants to write about you, nobody wants to do a review. So like had the review set going out to anybody who would take it, like, hey, just give it a look, give it a try, and those guys are overloaded. I mean, like even like guys like you, if you get reached out to from some unknown brand, you got to be like, hey, just hold on, I got a lot happening, I'll put you on the back burner until I can squeeze you in. It's tough that first year and a half to get, unless you have a home run model right out the door. It's you got to put in the time, and you got to basically be like, anybody want to write about me? You can write about me. Anybody want to interview me? I'll interview. You know?
Yeah, and I think the strategy that you took of really staying committed to building something that's unique that doesn't look like the catalog watch, right, with your logo on it, that
Yeah.
really helps, right? When somebody reaches out and they say, "Hey, I've got this new watch. I want you to review it," and it actually looks different, and you're like, "Whoa, that's not something I've seen before." I think that makes it a lot easier to get attention out there. So that's really cool to hear about the sort of journey with the Seaplane. At what point did you realize we got to make another watch, right? You got this watch out there, you've got 300 of them, you're going out there, as you said, hitting the pavement, getting people talking about it. When do you decide, you know what, we've got another one that we should get out there? And maybe what were some of the learnings that you had from that first go around, where it sounded like you tried the overseas, it didn't work. Now you've got a good supplier locally here. What were some of those learnings that maybe made the second time around a little bit easier?
So one thing for sure I can say is I had this target of people who didn't want to wear watches. Like the guy who says, I got a phone, I don't want to wear watches. It's a horrible financial target, but it's like the watch nerd in me really wanted to get these people that thought they didn't need a watch. Like I'm like, and this is prior to the Apple Watch. Like, let me get something on your wrist that tells the time. Like you really should. You got to step it up, be a big boy. That's me being a jerk. And I realized that the price point at the time was around 650, I think, for our Seaplane Swiss automatic. Like to someone who doesn't know watches, that is equivalent to a Rolex sometimes. Like, oh my God, $650 for a watch. They don't care about the Swiss automatic. They don't care, about the quality of the grade of the lume that I'm putting in there and the sapphire crystal. And, they don't, they're just like, I'm just trying to get a watch on them. So I realized I needed to find something that was in a price point that was more digestible and still cool. And that's where we started like saying we got to come up with our follow-up watch. Let's do something with a little more fun that has like the ripple effect where you throw you throw a pebble in the water and it has the ripple. And through designing, uh, I had met with this guy named Alex Asfor, who does stuff now for Bulova as well. Actually, he does art on the back of their dials or their models for each like windup. But he is an artist. He does like travel book, travel vintage travel stuff. Anyways, got connected with him, and while we were doing this, he kind of was like, "Hey, this looks like topography." So I was like, "Oh, this is great. Make it dark with like blue and the topography." And I had taken that, and then for some reason I hit invert just to invert it, and it like went all white. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can do a lume dial." And like I'm a lume dial nerd. Like one of my first watches was the Citizen Pro Diver lume dial. So like I love that crap, and this just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna work. And I was like, what if I take the loom and then we paint kind of on top of it? So then when it goes dark, it has the negative effect and it really brings out the image. And that's what our Wayfinder loom dial was when we first launched that. And then we're like, all right, we got to keep this. Like I said, it can't be $600. So we learned that, I didn't want a ticking quartz, and thank God I found that VH31 sweeping quartz, which I got it, and I was like, okay, this changed my mind. I was going to be an automatic only company, and getting that sweeping quartz. It's funny, automatic only, and now I make digital watches. But it's that sweeping quartz like tricks your mind into thinking it's an automatic, right? So it gets that tick 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 away, and then it lowers the price point. It's more serviceable, and we could get it for, I think we were selling them for like 350, 375. So that got people in that were kind of like, 600's too much. 350 is more digestible. So we realized we could hit that price point that was more impulse buy and get more people in. Um, and that's my main goal, is to just get more people interested in watches. And if that means something that's glow in the dark and has a little bit of funk to it, that's when we kind of started hitting our stride. Was the Seaplane was safe. I mean, we had a cool, I think it's awesome still. The beautiful, like the wave bottom with the starry night up top. It just is, it's very subtle, and it has a nice pop on that bezel. But the Wayfinder, that's like on the back of my business card. I feel like that's the one that kind of cemented us, and you can identify it on someone's wrist and it pops out.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the first actually watch that I saw of yours was the solar one. So it's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned like automatic only. Now you've got automatic, now you got quartz, and then suddenly you're getting into solar. And I think that's where I start to see this fun color come into play as well, right? Like you've got the straps that are I remember the first one I saw actually was, I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody that I follow on Instagram who was doing sort of a watch collection walkthrough. And he was from Miami, and he was like, this is the Miami watch because it had the like, the neon sort of blue and then the pink in there. And so maybe tell me about that. So you got now two different watches, two different movements, right? And then
Hmm.
you're like, let's go solar.
Yeah, so I had done the solar one because this is like, and I don't know if like that watch was unique because we took the sweeping quartz and put that into the Wayfinder, but that was after we designed the watch. Like this, the chronos, the solar chronos, I had this vision. I wanted a solar power with the sweeping chronograph because the VK movements from Seiko, they're the sweeping chronograph, right? But they're battery power and they're awesome. They're super awesome. But I was like, I just want that in solar. So I had dug through spec sheets. I mean, going through websites, digging in, trying to find something. And I remember I finally found the VS71A from Epson Seiko, and I was like, maybe I'm not reading this right. And I sent it to Chris, who's over at Weekend Watch. I was like, Chris, am I reading this properly? This is gonna sweep. The second hand is gonna sweep. It's gonna tick like 5 times per second. Like it's actually gonna have the sweep, and then it's gonna have the sweep back. He's like, yeah, dude, it will. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So then we built the dial for our Auto Club watch, the CSEW one with the tire tread around that. And then while we were doing that, I did two prototypes. Let's see. I don't have them right here, but of the Vice, of the original teal Vice. So I had two prototypes done where I was like, hey, I want to do one that looks like the backdrop of a Lamborghini Countach poster I kind of remember having back when I was a kid. So let's do two of those. And he's like, dude, this is awesome. You got to make another 100 of these. I was like, I don't think so, man. I showed it to my friends. They all thought it looked ridiculous. So clearly, it's not going to hit. So then got the car ones. They were moving well. And then I don't remember what. I did some like Instagram post where I took the chronograph, the regular one with the tire, and I was like at 88 miles an hour. And I did like the little transition pop, and it was like the Vice. Uh, and then like comments were coming in. People were sending me emails like, when is this launching? Like my friend Random Rob, who does reviews and stuff, was like, what's going on with this? Where's the watch? And then him and I had a call, and he's like, you got to launch this, dude. Like I give credit 100% to Random Rob, to Chris and Random Rob. Chris told me it was going to be a hit. So Chris, the watch designer, or the watch manufacturer, I had designed it, created it, and he's like, this is going to be a hit. My wife came in the room, saw me creating this, and was like, dude, this is awesome, and you need to make it. Didn't listen to him. Then Random Rob comes in and is like, Adam, you got to make this. Like, this is going to crush. So I was like, still nervous. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to make 88 of them. That, it has a little kitschy 88 miles an hour. I was like, we'll call it the Vice. I was like, well, we'll keep it kind of similar to the Solar Chrono, so we'll still have the tire tread or the tire wheel on the back, and we'll just see what happens. And he had done a review. I had a pre-order open, which I don't do as many pre-orders as I used to do, and the thing like 80% sold out like that day that I did the launch. And then Nick over at Strap Habit had one, and he did a write up on his, and the next he blasts out an email, cleans it out, and then I'm getting back in stock requests and emails and questions. I'm like, that was a mistake. I should have made 1,988 of them because people wanted that one so bad. But that was awesome. That when that hit and then people liked it and I was able to follow up with the bubble gum, then I was like, okay, we've got our vibe. Like we've got the Wayfinder, we've got the Vice edition. Like there's something totally unique about us that I think people connect with.
And then you launched the digital mixtape, right? And that seems to have gotten huge reception. I mean, uh, I started seeing that everywhere, and that's the moment I was like, okay, I got to get. I think I saw the Indian watch reviewer, right? I think you were on his
Yeah,
podcast
yeah.
before, and he had a picture with him and his kids wearing it, and I was like, I got to get it for my sons, right? So we got it. I got the picture as well. What I know traditional watch collectors and stuff might have less of a I guess, a positive viewpoint, let's say, on some digital watches, right? What made you decide, you know what? We're going to go with a digital watch. And were you surprised with how well it was received? Because it seems like, again, I'm seeing folks that I look at their Instagram and I see all these automatic watches, Salida movements, and
Yeah.
then there's the digital mixtape. So were you surprised that it sort of opened the door for some of these folks that maybe would have been opposed to a digital watch?
Huge. I mean, it was a huge surprise. And again, this is another one that I was nervous about. Like the Vice, I was nervous about. I thought I was gonna get mocked. It looked stupid. It's just too many trolls on the internet. That's all it is. So yeah, here's the whole backstory on the retro digitals. So I had gotten my son. I'm a Garbage Pail Kid fan. There's this Get a Grip skateboards. I got him basically like an FW91 Garbage Pail Kids watch, and I gave him one. I gave my daughter one, and he was wearing it like crazy because it has an alarm. It's got a stopwatch so he can stop and test himself how fast he's running, set his alarm before he wake up at school. And he's like, Dad, why don't you make this? Why don't you have this? And I was like, you know what, dude, this doesn't fit anywhere in it's a digital watch. But then I had concurrently been trying to work on a cassette tape model because I had the Solar Chrono with the two subdials here, and I was trying to push them sideways and make them the inside workings of a cassette tape. But it wasn't fitting. You put the image wasn't working. So then like I kind of had this like thought while I was walking my dog, what if I just take that and if I can make it transparent, or like a cassette tape case. So I kind of had this like, whoa, this is just exciting. Just the artist in me went like, oh my gosh, this is cool. So I went back and burned a bunch of time like creating this whole thing. And then I found someone who could make it. So I had a bunch of different samples because I was like, I don't want a junky one. So I had a bunch of samples come in, tested them, found the ones I liked. I was like, can this factory like they do a lot of other stuff? So I was like, can they do custom watch stuff? So they ended up partnering with me and doing the custom watch thing. And yeah, so I got I didn't tell anybody for the most part. I just did this, told my son and my wife and kids, but I ordered like 1,000 of them, I think was the first order. So it's the clears and the blues with the black strap. And like everything shows up and I'm like cutting the box open and my parents are over and I was like, "Hey dad, what do you think about this?" Like he's like, "You're gonna sell the heck out of these." He's like, "These are awesome." I was like, "Really?" Because I'm nervous. So I'm still again not confident in it, which is dumb, but I'm going to post. Usually, I send out something to my subscribers. So usually, I send out an email to my subscribers, and they get the first dibs on everything. This one, I was like, you know what? If I send post an Instagram, feel it out, then if it doesn't work, boom, I can pull it down, right? No, no big deal. Could test the waters with Instagram, which is hilarious. So I did the post. I should actually go try and find it, and I don't even know what I said, but like people were popping off. It was popping off. It was going crazy. Like the messages, the messages. Is this? What is happening? What's going on here? And then it just kind of caught fire for a little bit. It was just everyone was talking about it. People were writing about it. It's great because, like you said, it's something different. So I thought people were going to be knocking it, but I think the timing was right because the digital was just starting to come back, and people appreciated that I was just trying to make something fun, and I didn't make it $100. It's like I think when I first came out, I was like, let's just get these things to people with discount codes, blah blah blah, $25. Give them a watch, let them put it on their kids' wrists, whatever. But yeah, I just think the market for appreciating it, what I created, and it's been fun now because I tell people it's my moon's watch. Like I'm making different colors. I'm trying to go like now I've opened the gates and my creativity is going kind of crazy. Like I'm trying, the VHS we've spawned into. I've got another one that's coming out that's in the video game realm. So the whole retro digital has become its own animal, which I love, and it's great because those are great things, like you said, to get on kids' wrist. They're at a show, someone's looking for a reasonable souvenir. Like my stuff costs the same as a watch strap. It's like, pick up something fun. Remember the times of cassette tapes, and even the kids who have no idea what it is, they just like the watch itself, which is lending itself nicely.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. My son loves it for the reason that your son loves it. I mean, the first thing he was doing was timing himself. He was timing everything. He was timing how long it would take us to make dinner, how long it took him to like brush his teeth. He was
Yep.
timing so he loved that aspect of it. And then for the parents, I mean, I grew up in the 90s, right? It took me back, right? It was like, I remember, the mixtapes that we used to make and, all these colors, and it sort of brought me back in time. I think if you launched just a digital watch that looked like, plain digital watch, or was like maybe like a less capable Apple Watch looking thing, not
Mm-hmm.
smart, but
Right.
digital, that wouldn't have hit. But I think that sort of nostalgia and that retro and that theme of the mixtape really resonated with me, at least, and the colors, right? And it's
That's
cool to hear
awesome.
that now you're VHS and then gaming and all that stuff. It all makes sense. One question I wanted to ask you is, how do you think about balancing? Now you have maybe a different variety of customers, right? You have
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that like the traditional tool watches and are really resonating with, the Seaplane, the Wayfinder, and so on. You might have people that want to have a collection of different types of technology and movements, right? You've got people that can kind of go the full gamut. And then you've got sort of the fun, the color, less expensive, so you can sort of pick it up without having to worry about it and wear it and give it to your kids and so on. How are you thinking about your customer base now? And are you thinking about honing in on a specific segment, or are you thinking about supporting across the gamut?
Well, the retro digital is, I mean, it's gonna almost have its own separate thing, I feel like, because that's like, I'm just considering it retro digital. I got the retrodigitalwatch.com. If anybody goes there, just shoot them to our site. So I'm planning ahead for that, where, the retro digital is kind of its own thing, and we can go so many different directions that I want to let it happen. Because that was like, I got to like write the ideas down and then rank them and figure out how do you hit that. But I mean, like, so I've got in terms of blending the two, I've got the Vice. Oh, here's actually a coaster. So the original Vice, right? This color.
Yeah.
So this colorway is going to be coming in an automatic diver. So we're basically taking that 300-meter diver that we have with the Wayfinder and putting the Vice colorway that was limited edition that everyone wanted me to make again, kind of on that. So that's one where we're trying to kind of expand, because people tell me we want the automatic Vice. So I'm like, all right, we'll give you the automatic Vice. Um, and then we've got some really fun summer ones that are coming. Like we're into the development right now, which are just, they're going to be cool. Like I'm really excited about them. Um, I'm looking at pulling in another, again, unique movement that I don't think anybody is using right now, which is gonna, I think, help push us even further, because that's what I love, like trying to put more different things on the book, like the solar power. We've got a lot going on right now, but come the end of the year, I'd probably November, we'll have a whole bunch of new cool stuff, which I'm excited about. Like I said, I'm trying to blend it all together. So while the seaplane was subtle, you may not see another subtle watch like the seaplane again, because people like the vibe we're going. We were encouraged to go that way, which is great because I love it. We're still going to have automatic movements. We're going to have cool new movements and fun dials, and kind of pull them all together and just kind of keep the whole fun watch vibe. But the retro digital line is going to that is going to be, that's the one where, like, if I get burnt out a little bit, I pull up the retro digital and I just start working on it, because it's like just sparks just fly. You just like it, you
Yeah.
got to like almost pull it to reel it in.
Yeah, there's so much you could do with it, I think, which is going to be fun to see. Another part of your brand that I've noticed is this, definitely handmade in America. You talked a little bit about sort of the story of that and how the decision, the reason behind it, but also this like Chicago Midwest pride that seems to be deep in your brand. Why, I guess, beyond the quality and sort of the communication side of things, why is it important to you to have made in America sort of deep in the brand? And were there any, you talked about some of the benefits, right? The quality and you have a great partner, that you mentioned that sees your vision, that you can bounce ideas off and so on. But were there any challenges as well? Or times where you questioned if you should sort of continue with Made in America because it's easier, it's cheaper, it's faster? I don't know. Were there
Sure.
any sort of things
Yeah.
that made you question that decision?
Yeah, and just to clarify, to make sure like no one's confused, like the digital line is made overseas. That I cannot get produced here. I mean, as much as we can get done here, we get done here. We package everything. I will deviate here for something just real quick, just to share with you like why it's still kind of built here. So we get the watches, and I work with a school for autistic children that helps me assemble and package everything. So all the boxes, every sticker, everything that's inserted in there, that's all done either by me, my kid, or the school, which helps out a lot with packaging together. And I got a whole video coming out on that. The thing with, I think, keeping it local, like I can drive 5 hours if there's an issue to come check stuff out while they're assembling it. Service wise, if there's an issue with anybody's watch, I get it. I send it to Nicole over at Weekend Watch, and she repairs it. When you send it overseas, I mean, if you bought a bulk stuff from, let's say, China of catalog watches and they're not working, what you do is you get it, you almost scrap it for the most part and send a new one. That's the route you're gonna go. And yeah, I've considered it because you're like the turnaround time is a lot faster. You can probably get watches in 2-3 months if you went catalog. And I'm sometimes waiting for the custom stuff like 6, which can, if you don't get on your January, February design, you end up with stuff coming next year, which you're like, oh, I need it before, the holidays. So yeah, I question that only because I know we're paying, you pay a premium, right? The customer pays a premium to us. We pay a premium to get it done in terms of our overall costs. But yeah, I think it's just, if you want to have the value at the end of the day and the support, especially with service, you got to keep it. Just for me, I'm more comfortable with that because like I said, I've done stuff with like the digitals, like the one, like the VHS one, like we were working with. So the VHS one, we don't just put like a plastic, underneath the dial or a piece of paper or a sticker. Like it's printed, reverse printed onto our dials. So we were reverse printing for this glass supplier, and the guy just kept messing it up. So that's why I barely made Halloween. Like I had planned so far in advance for the kill count, and it would come back, and I'd be like, "This is just you move these two pieces, they don't line up. This colorway doesn't work. Like why is this so big?" And sometimes you're trying to get like 5 items changed, and they come back with 3 of the items changed, and you're like, we just lost 2 weeks bouncing back and forth, and you only changed. So that reinforced that for my premium analog watches, they will not leave stateside.
Makes sense. And you touched on the charity side. I was going to ask you about that as well. It seems like that's important as well as part of your brand. You have a page on your site where it talks about different charities that you work with. How did that come about, and sort of what's your vision on that front? Because I think that adds a lot to the brand and the brand story.
Yeah, I mean, props to my dad for telling me a while back, like, look, even just in your personal life, you've got to give money to charity. It's how it is. That's how it is. Like, if you don't, then they're underserved. So when I started the company, even before we were profitable. It's just you got to work it in. It's kind of like putting money away, right? You put money away every month, you don't see it, and you never miss it. So with charities, I think we started with you have to put a certain amount towards the charities. It's just how it goes. And with enough silent auctions and needing, food banks and like partnering with Seal, the school that I'm talking about, it's just, I think that's the right thing to do, I guess. Cubs Charities was easy because we had the Wayfinder Northside edition, so that partnered really well. I'm trying to think what else we've been. I need to change. I need to update the pages because we've been working with a lot of different smaller organizations that I should give shout outs to. I don't know. It's just like I think it's an obligation. I think it's a requirement, an obligation, and you should be doing it. So it was important that I was like, that has to be the third pillar. Is we got to keep it. We gotta give back. Especially if I'm pushing local all the time, you got to take care of everybody, and that's that's how it all works, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's been, as I said, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the watches. I'm a huge fan of your content, and I'm a huge fan of your principles and sort of what you stand for, and that you stay true to that vision. So I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you coming on today, sharing a little bit more of that story. As a fan of the brand, I could nerd out, and I don't know if you saw my face. I was getting really excited as you're telling us the story behind a lot of these watches that I've seen, but I hadn't heard the story. And I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching were also really excited to hear it. So thanks so much for taking the time and sharing with us. And if folks want to learn more, if they want to follow you, maybe you can include some links to your website and your
Yeah.
Instagram and stuff. But where's the best place for folks to really follow, engage, and support you?
Yeah, subscribe on our site. I don't send out enough emails. We're keeping people updated. Yeah, that, and then look for us on Instagram. I'm better with Instagram than I am with the other ones. They kind of follow after Instagram. And I try my best to answer questions on that and respond. I know DMs sometimes get totally blocked out, but like it's me. It's me when I'm talking to somebody for the most part. Like I want to have connections with customers and fans. If you send us emails, I try to answer it. Please don't be insulted if it takes me 3 days, 4 days. I try to answer the emails as they come in and get back to people. And then if you go to shows, I mean, like we're going to Intersect New York this weekend. If you are a watch fan and you haven't been to a watch show, even if you're just like exploring it or just getting into it, it's such a cool place to go because most of the founders are there. You get to directly talk with them and see everything in person, and then you're around a bunch of like-minded people. It's like a Comic-Con for watch fans. It's awesome. I love it. So I highly recommend that.
Very cool. Well, Adam, thanks again for taking the time for chatting with us, and have a great rest of your day over there.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. I really appreciate it.